Hello and welcome to another action figure review unboxing type thing. So today I've got the Let There Be Carnage from, well, the Venom series. So he's a pretty big figure and he takes up a lot of space even while compact in this box. I don't really know what to say about boxes. I don't tend to keep them. I just open them throughout the box and keep the figure. I normally keep them in a Ziploc bag if I'm storing them. But the box looks pretty good. So here's the alternate head with the tongue. The sculpt is really nice. The paint job is pretty nice as well. I believe this figure, I got it for 35, it was meant to be 45 on release. So you do get what you pay for. You've then got obviously the alternate hands, this one being just his spike right hand. Just a nice simple up and down hinge there. And the black paint's really nice. The only thing I will say is it's a shame it's not on the other side as well, not instead of. Here you've got the blade, a little bit warped in packaging, but some hot water will sort that out. Again, the paint on this one's really nice as well. The only issue I did have is that this peg was stuck, and you might be able to see in a minute that from trying to get it to move, I did stress it, which obviously made the joint go a little bit white, but just some hot water and I was able to free that up and straighten the blade out itself. Now this is one of the biggest parts that comes with Carnage, or it is the biggest part. So he's got his 5 tendrils which are fully articulated, they've got a nice bendy wire running through them, and they're optional. You can plug them in, you can not plug them in. Realistically, if you've got this figure and you've paid £45 for it, you're gonna want to display it with all these tendrils and all his weapons. For me personally, he takes up a little bit too much space for me to display him anywhere, I think. So this might be one of those where I mess around with him a bit, I see if I can fit him somewhere on the shelf, and if not, I pass him on to another collector. Because great as this figure is, I don't think I have the space for him. You can also see that 2 of the weapons have plugs. I think it's because the rest is sculpted the same except for these 2 ends. So they've both got this weird blade that's still straight on it, and then each one has a different attachment piece. It's quite odd. I thought maybe there was a reason for it, but it seems it's just for manufacturing. Now getting the figure in here, he is a very tall figure. I do wish I'd measured him, but you can see from just me holding him that he takes up a fair bit of space. The paintwork is really nice. I do wish there was a little bit more black kind of trading around his sides and on his back. He is fairly plain on the backside, as you can see there. So some paint on the back of the calves and his actual torso would have been quite nice. I understand cost cutting and everything, and if you've got the tendrils on, you're probably not going to be looking from the back. But it would have been nice for the price point if there was a bit more paint on him. Overall look and articulation wise though, this thing is incredible. For a pinless figure this big, he's got a good range of movement, especially with all these little weird tendrils and things coming off of his limbs. The joints were a tiny bit stiff, but once I got them moving, they were easy enough to move. You can see heel is practically touching butt, so you've got a nice range there. Very good range back for the ankle. It's almost completely flat with the calf. And a good range forwards as well. Of course you've got the pivot there too. The only thing this figure's really missing is a boot cut or an ankle swivel, which I'm not too bothered about for Carnage. Using just the ab crunch, he does go fairly far forwards. But then using the diaphragm joint as well, you can see you've practically got a 90-degree bend there. And then going all the way back with that ab crunch as well. Good range. And then using the diaphragm joint, you do get that little bit extra, but it's not a whole lot. Although it's still about 90 back. So you've got around 180-degree motion for his torso, which is a very nice upgrade. Obviously you normally just get ab crunch or diaphragm joint. It's nice that they're starting to implement diaphragm and ab into both ranges of figures. By both ranges I mean MCU and comic. So you could also see there he's got that good range side to side, and of course you've got the rotation there. The arms have been designed really nicely as well, so the tendrils come just in far enough so you can get almost 90-degree movement out. Obviously full bicep swivel there as well. Full rotation, not hindered by anything. Very good range at that double hinge elbow. You can see the tendrils do get in the way a little bit, but again, odds are you're not going to want him with his arms fully closed in. Really good range in the hands as well. Very nicely sculpted, actually, the hands. I really like their design. The hole in the hands is a nice touch too. Good range up. I do love double ball joint heads. They've got a very nice range of movement to them, and it always seems really smooth. Obviously the disc hinge will get more range up and down. When you've got a double ball peg like this, you get a really nice kind of just rotational movement with it. Supposing him up with basically all of the weapons he comes with and that alternate head, you can see what I mean by he's going to take up a lot of space on a shelf. These tendrils are also a lot easier to pose than Dr. Octopus's was. I assume it's either a softer rubber or it's just because it's thinner. But yeah, these will pose and hold their pose very nicely without worry of breaking, from my experience. Now you may want to have a stand with him, or have him rested up against something. Because of the weight and the rubbery plastic that he's made from, he will, if you live in a hot environment, or it's just summer, the ankles will possibly give out, or some of the other bits of him will move a tiny bit, and then he'll be off balance and he will fall over. I did test my theory. I left it posed like this overnight, and when I woke up in the morning he was flat on his face. So he will slowly fall. He could be a shelf toppler, but if you rest him up against something like I have here, he's rested up against the backdrop, he should be fine. And again, you can see here just the sheer amount of volume that this guy would take up on a shelf. A great centerpiece, maybe not a good side character. I think he's a bit of a show stealer, which I suppose is keeping in character. And you can see if you want the minimal look with just a single weapon, then you can get a very intimidating look for him. You don't have to use all the tendrils, you don't have to use all the weapons, you don't even have to use any of the alternate accessories. Just using him out of the box, he will pose really nicely and hit some interesting, I don't know, characteristic poses. You can get that psychotic energy from him very easily. Yeah, so there's the kind of psycho killer look that you can get from him with just that one hand changed. And if you want him to take up even less space, you can obviously fold that inwards, you can fold it straight down, and regardless of which way it's facing, it's going to look like quite an intimidating weapon. This is also quite a good one. You can see now what I mean by it'd be nice if the black was on the other side of this blade as well, because poses like this make it look like just a red bit of plastic coming off of his arm, whereas if that paint was on both sides, you could get the nice black wash effect. If your shelves are too tall, you need to be a little bit shorter. Crouching poses work really nice for him as well. He kind of just has an aggressive presence to him, which I suppose is probably the mix of him being bright red, a bit of black, and just having some sharp, weird, tendrily bits on him. And of course the menacing grin. But then even without the grin and just the tongue, He looks unhinged, which is exactly how he should. Now bringing him for a size comparison, Venom is a big figure, so you can see just how big Carnage must be. He's about the same width, maybe a tiny bit thinner, but I want to say 1.5 inches taller, if not 2 inches taller. I am aware there's another version of Venom coming out where he's got back tendrils as well. I won't be picking that up. I've already got a Venom that I'm happy with, and I probably won't even be keeping this Carnage. As much as I love it, I don't see a need to get the other Venom. Now posing wise, you can get them in some great poses. They have just, again, these two figures have a great character to them. And Carnage really does look imposing being this much taller than Venom is. So if you did want a very simple little pose between the two of them, you could go for this. This works quite well, especially since they've both got clawed hands. If you wanted a longer, wider shelf display, you've got this option where you've got them both ready to fight. This is where some effects for Venom would have been quite useful, for, I don't know, some sort of weapons for his hands. I do actually sell some on my Etsy that work with this Venom. This wasn't meant to be a plug. If you are interested, they are available on my Etsy. But they are just black tendril effects, which would have been nice to have with him to begin with. But posing him back up, this is exactly how I left him overnight. And you can see there he's got a little bit of wobble to him. Which rightly so, he's huge. He's very top heavy on very thin ankles. But yeah, I love this figure very, very much. I just unfortunately don't think I have the space for him. So maybe I'll make him a custom and then put him on eBay and one of you guys can have him. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this figure and I'll see you in the next video.